But for now, I am expecting a couple of more to connect in. So let's just see how everybody is. And are you, here's Sandra from Brazil, which will be exciting. Yeah, it'd be nice to know where people are. I know you're up in New York, aren't you? Hey, Sandra, lovely to see you. Where are you?
I am in São Paulo, my house, Brazil.
Oh, so you went back from Rio de Janeiro.
Yeah. I was there just for the weekend.
Nice, as you do when you're in Brazil. We
Yeah.
go down to Brighton. It seems much more exotic, very less exotic. So I'm just waiting for a few people to come in. What would be helpful is for you to get a piece of paper and a pen for everybody, just to start the process of working on. Juliet, I don't know if you are going to be visual, but nice to see you. I'm acknowledging you, saying hello. Oh, all right.
Hi. Hey, sorry, my camera isn't working, but I'm very much here with you.
Great. Nice to see you. Ulrich has got the tribe dancing behind. I know. Woo! So fantastic. So
Bom dia, minha família. Bom dia.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Where are you, Juliet, by the way, just to know?
I'm in Hong Kong.
Oh, you're in Hong Kong. Wow, I love it. Hong Kong, Brazil, York, East Finchley, and East Finchley, Ulrich, and London. So interesting mix of where people are. I always love this international thing. So 27 people signed up for this, so they'll get that. So we know there's a greater group. But for now, I think we can just start. And what I want to talk to you about, and probably Shona has heard me say this before, that there is this amazing opportunity that has happened due to COVID, which is that 100% of live events have gone down this year. And we've never had that in history, like ever. This is an unprecedented time when you think of those events, like for instance, Glastonbury Music Festival, which has 350,000 people go to that physically, that took them 40 years to develop that. And many of the physical events, when they have taken time to develop, it's taken over 6 to 10 years to break even. But the opportunity that is now available to you is all those people who will be dealing with the physical events will be just dealing with problem solving right now, because they will have had to rebook, reschedule, consider whether it's a good time next year. All the payments back, all the refunds will be occupying them mostly. And into that space, there is an opportunity which is unprecedented in our history. And I actually personally think if you can get yourself doing events right now, you have got the biggest opportunity in business for the next 10 years, like that. And so the way that we're looking at, we've got this period of time which is known as the old order or the old patriarchy going down. We saw Donald leave us over the weekend. Yay. Goodbye, Donald. And everything that he represents. Yay. That's old order. That's patriarchy going down. And so what we are seeing is the emergence of this new earth, and it's described as many different things. It's described as Society 5.0, New World Order, the Aquarian Age, New Earth, the New Paradigm. And we have all this language. And where did that language come from? It came from, there are many, many prophecies which have described this era that we're going through right now. That you know, tapping into so many different of those prophecies. The Hopi describe it as the time of the rainbow children, the rainbow tribe. And this is people of all different colors, but red on the inside is how they describe it, will come together to solve the world's problems in this era that we're in right now. When you hear people talking much more on the reincarnation or light being level, they talk about it as being, we've got crystal children, indigos, all coming in, and now there's a different name for that, blue diamond souls, all coming in to take us through this bumpy patch into this new golden age, which is called the Aquarian age. In astrology, you had the harbinger of this was round about when I was born, which dates me because there were 6 planets in the sky in Aquarius in 1962, actually 7 in a week. In 1 week before me, there were 7. And it was the harbinger of this Aquarian age. And I misunderstood that because, of course, you know, I heard the music of Hair and all of that. This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius, that one. And I thought it was then, but it's not. It's actually this year, coming up very soon as we step through the winter solstice. So they are unprecedented times. And the new earth leaders who are being called right now, hello, Elizabeth, nice to see you. The new earth leaders who are being called in right now are being called in on a specific attunement, if you like, wavelength, opportunity, and the new earth leadership is really set to go global. So overnight, your audience is not local anymore. You're dealing with the global village. That's part of these new teachings. And for you to step into that arena, we know that the best and foremost way that you can get your message across is if it's authentic. So I've had an example of somebody I've been coaching recently. There's a cat about to jump up. That's what I'm doing down here. There's a cat meowing at my feet. She was thinking, and this is typical of many people, of what they think they ought to do in these times. She's a marketing expert. She's worked in big corporations. And one of the roles that I had with her as she got out of the corporation was to reinvent her as you know, in an authentic level. And what happens is when you're doing something like that, the old system is calling, right? The old system is calling all the time, like, ooh, am I doing the right thing? Maybe I should just carry on with corporate. Maybe it's better for money. Maybe it's the, you know, that reliable paycheck. And so I was working with her for several months, and we had got an amazing vision for her. And she was also trying to promote herself in marketing. And roll on, we've gone down through 3 months of this intensive work. And then she had a meltdown. And the meltdown was, the languaging of the meltdown was all, you know, this isn't true to me. It'll never work. It's all this language of fear. But when I've actually worked through it with her, what she really wanted to do all along is coming to the surface. And it's like she's been, all the excuses of the marketing of all this 1 foot back in the past just simply won't work now. And so when we talk about the authentic message, she has never mentioned her authentic message once with me in 3 months, never once. And it's all to do with parenting. We go from this high level, you know, pitching at this sort of corporate level, but really what she wants to do is talk about parenting. And the decisions that she made as a parent have been pivotal. So home birth, not circumcising her child in America, which, you know, was unheard of because circumcision is in the medical system now. It's not even a religious belief. And it comes out of an old taboo system. So she made that decision. And then by taking on these big decisions, she became overnight vegan. And her work in the world is vegan. And so we were pitching her out on that level. But really what she wants to do is go back to the thing beneath that, which was all the decisions around parenthood and her children. And you would think if she was with some very commercial coaches, they would say, no, forget that parenting thing that you had the idea about, forget it. Instead, she's working with me and I'm like, finally, like, great, we got there, because it's stripping away all of those layers of what you think you ought to do to speak into this world and really go back to the space which is completely filled with joy, filled with excitement of what you really want to talk about. So I want to take you there as the first place in an event, especially in this timing. And so if you didn't have to prove yourself to anybody, and if you didn't have to think that you were in a massive system of, you know, this marketing machine that's going out, what do you really want to talk about? You know, what really turns you on in that way of it lights you up, you're super excited about it. You know, you find yourself thinking about it all the time. You find yourself motivated by it. It was a key decision moment, perhaps, in your life, you know, and maybe we could open up the floor and say, what's that level? And some of it may sound quite childlike. Like, I love animals. I love, you know, I'm really interested in being a parent, you know, like that, because it's so key. I'd like to open up the floor and ask some of you, if you didn't have to prove some commercial success, what would your event topic be about? Who wants to speak to me? Anybody?
Suppose for me it would be about connecting with the deepest, purest truth of who we are and how we connect with everything that exists through that, and how we create our experience with what we feel and what we do, etc.
Okay, so if you have a piece of paper, I want you to write that piece down. The deepest part of who we are, connecting to the deepest part of who we are. And in a way, that could be a title for an event, right? Just like that. And we tend to belittle our ideas because so often we're trying to prove it to everybody. It has to sound really out there or really corporate or really commercial. And if you can start to go back, so let's have somebody else. Sandra, tell me, if you weren't trying to be effective and you were just going back to the very essence of who you are, what would be something that interests you, that gives you great joy?
Well, besides what I do now that is working with veganism, but there is a lot of other things that I would, if I don't have to worry about anything, any judgment, I would love to talk about. For example, how human beings in some moments we just have these moments where we stop believing in life and then we go into depressions, and what are the tools that I worked in my life and I continue working in my life to use the tools to take me out of that black hole of the depression and everything. So talk a little bit about my experience, but also the observation of that every human being has this kind of feeling once in a while, go into this very, I mean, to try to raise the energy of the people, especially on these times, because we're talking about the new earth. So yeah, this is something that I would love to talk about.
So if we were to take it in your way, it came around rather than the affirmation of the cure to that, the topic would be, when did you stop believing in life? You know, when did you step into your black hole? Right? So the event could be that, the tagline could be, so it could be, the event is black hole, right? Or black holes, your black hole. And then the tagline could be, when did you stop believing in life? And because there's two ways of very effective marketing, it's either to find the problem and to speak from the pain point, right? So in that case, it would be that you're speaking from the pain point. The other way is to speak about the solution. And so some of the best effective marketing is speaking about the pain point, because people are immediately emotionally connected to their pain points. And then you can lead them out of there. So you can have a solution for them of how to fix it. But it's interesting because you do all this work on veganism and you're the head of a massive organization speaking about that. But the real thing that you want to talk about is the black holes. And so that is a very common thing that I come across all the time, that people aren't really speaking about the thing they want to speak about because they don't believe in it. They don't believe it's okay. They don't think it's got an audience. They don't think it's got viability. And so the first thing to do with this essence of getting down to the core is to start to really speak authentically. And the first bit is to look at the underlying experience. What is the underlying? So for me, I'm just deeply interested in ceremony and ritual. And I've been doing it for many, many, many years, at least 4 decades, engaging. I mean, we could take it all the way back to childhood, but what really, really turned me on and was full of joy, and I never gave up on, I always went to ritual, always. And so my topic would be ritual, right? And now it was probably the earth is ready for that. But when I was involved in it, all those years, I would keep that quiet. That was my private life. And I drew a distinction between my private life and what I would allow people to understand about me in the public arena. So here's the second piece I want to give you. The thing that you most hide about yourself, the thing that you don't want to mention, is the very thing that will make you great. Right? So from the perspective of the black holes, I can assume that Sandra's had experience with going in one. That pictures, yeah. Otherwise you wouldn't be interested in it, right? And it's the classic wounded healer tale, that whatever has been the hardest thing in our lives to deal with, and this is even in astrology, wherever Chiron shows up in your chart, the hardest things that we have to deal with as human individuals will be exactly the thing that is your expertise, because you've had to dip into it firsthand, and then you are the one who is the expert in it, right? And the training it's the hardest piece of the teachings of Chiron, the wounded healer. Like you just can't get away from it. You cannot escape those dark shadow pathways that you're having to work your way through. Then you become that immensely empathetic healer. And so, second question I would ask yourself about this: if I look at my life and I see the things that have been the toughest, a tough journey, what is that piece that I'm embarrassed about, or I feel shame, or I think people will judge me for? And you will feel it rippling up right now, because, you know, our deep, dark shadows or our secrets they're just right there under the surface. They're just sitting there. And that piece is the one that will make you great. So I'm going to give you an example about this. So I was working with somebody who was a fantastic yoga teacher. She was a yoga teacher trainer. She came to work with me because she wanted to get out her business as a yoga teacher trainer. All sounds really nice. She's excellent at her work. For me, that would have been a piece of cake in terms of the business model to help her get out and to do her events. But amongst the things that she told me, and she probably told me in a millisecond, she mentioned that she had had a stillbirth delivered a stillbirth child, you know, so gone through the whole pregnancy and had a stillbirth baby, which had been this pivotal moment. Her name was Zara, the baby, she named it, as many mothers do who go through that awful path. And then years later, she'd had her other child. Now, in the conversation that we'd had as I was her coach, she must have mentioned that, I don't know, like 5 minutes, 2 minutes, something like that, in all the things that she told me about herself. And then roll on, we're doing all this work to get out her yoga teacher training. And then I have this big piece of information download, which is how I receive information. And one night I'm doing my meditation channeling work, and I receive the name of an event, Birthing in the New Earth. And I'm told that this is going to be an amazing event. It's going to involve all kind of healers to do with the very early stages of pregnancy all the way through to birth. It's going to be a very commercial event because people will all the mothers and the fathers on that path will want to know about it. It can get sponsorship. It's incredible for baby products and all of this kind of thing. And the key piece in it has to be the shadow bit, which is all about stillbirth and the journey of trauma, of the births that don't work out the way you want them. And so I get this piece of information, and then I also receive that it's for her. And so I call her up and I told her, I've even got the name of the event. This is the event that you're going to be doing. And I want you to take it on as your coach. Here's this thing. I want you to take it on. And Sam is her name. And she was just like, oh my God, you know, that first conversation was just like, whoa, this whopper of quite a lot of overwhelm, not thinking that this was going to be the business model that she wanted to use. And then after a week, she was just like, oh my God, this is the perfect thing for me. And she developed, so she accepted the offer, and she went into creating a whole program on the unexpected birth, right? So the one that doesn't work out the way you expect, or even for mothers who wanted children and never got them, all of that stuff, which is considered the shadow, because most of the time you see everybody would do birth event, having your baby, yay, it's a girl or a boy or something in between. It's exciting and sparkles, and nobody goes to that other level. But in the way that she created the event, and it went out in September, totally successful. She gets all these speakers who are speaking into different things, tough phases of parenthood, believing in yourself through parenthood, single parenthood. She doesn't just gather the happy, sparkly, perfect Brady Bunch. Used to be a show in America where, you know, it was the perfect family. They were all white, blue-eyed blondies, and everything was perfect. What you don't get about the Brady Bunch is that the father who played the Brady Bunch was gay and had AIDS and died of AIDS. And that's sort of like, you know, the real world is behind all the facade of even something like the Brady Bunch. In reality, that father was not straight. He was an actor who was gay, playing the ultimate heterosexual father in it, and he died of AIDS. So I want to direct you to this piece because that's the bit that will make you great. If you can speak about those topics, which are uncomfortable, go into the dark soul of the night, and don't just stay there, because, you know, the topic of like going into the black hole, if that was the only place you want to like lead them into the moment of stillbirth, and then you never give them the way out, that isn't going to work either. So it's being willing to reveal yourself as an event organizer, reveal what motivated you. And in a way, all the marketing and all the conversation around it would also be your story. It would be, why are you interested in this topic? Why are you an expert in this? So how is that resonating with all of you right now? Just to go there, do you sort of understand the thinking behind that? Does anybody want to say anything? Oh, you're all quiet today. You're not a chatty bunch. Anyone want to say that about what it feels like, that brink of having to reveal yourself, and how we spend most of our life not doing that? We want to put on a brave face.
Yeah, that's very true. Actually, most of the time we do put on a brave face, but it's actually what's going on underneath that's the authenticity, that's the truth of it. And until those things are spoken about and recognized, the inner evolution can't happen as strongly as it needs to for everybody. Because those who are sleeping, if you like, are sleeping because they are, well, if you lifted up the carpet, it'd be like, wow, what have we got this stuff? You know, so yeah, it's a very important part of it.
Yeah. So I'm getting you to look at the success model that I work on for events. So rather than just teaching you how to run an event, it's to get to the core of what it makes a great event topic, like really great. The pieces that are absolutely attached to success are the bits that you can bring that are so unique to you. So that's one piece. The second is to be completely authentic about what gives you joy and what is so fascinating to you that you want to go there. Most people think nobody wants to see that, or that there isn't, you know, why would anybody want to see my stuff on a black hole? So they play small and they never do their thing, right? For most of their life, we step back from those things. And the third thing is to think you are uniquely positioned to be the spokesperson for that very topic that gives you so much joy and interest and insight. You are uniquely positioned. So the first piece is right at the center of this page is to write that stuff, to make the core really personal, really authentic, to not hide the shadows, and to maybe even understand why you're so deeply connected to that as well as an event topic. Then when we start to move out from that, why are events so successful, and why do I think they're the best business model since sliced bread, especially now? I've mentioned that the whole world has stopped and that the events currently, we're seeing them all disappear. What does that give us? This vast space. And I could even describe it in the terms of, you know, the Aquarian age is really hearkening into the divine feminine. So divine feminine and divine masculine will walk together in this era. But divine feminine has not been focused on or favored or anything as a business model because patriarchy is always, I do it right, I do it best, I'm the 1% club. It's all striving, pushing, and that's our model that we think is okay. So here's a different model. If you position yourself at the center of an event, and then you have speakers around you who can harmonize with that event topic, and they can be either on the side of it, the opposite of it, walking a similar path to it, parallel to it. That's how you start to build out your speakers. And what happens is you become the center of a business hub. You get positioned at the center of this movable parts of all these people. So I'm going to use Sam as an example again with Birthing in the New Earth. So when she ran the event, she had about 30 something speakers, and we ran it so that we positioned her as the expert, how to do that. I did an interview of her to really talk about how the event had come about, including the conversation where I received this as a sort of vision for her. We went into that level of detail about it because we wanted to. So who knows who Sam is? Nobody, right? In the world. Who knows who you guys are? Probably nobody. And the sad thing about your audience is they don't care. Like, the reality is nobody cares. Nobody gives a shit who you are, right? They really don't. So what's the motivating factor of your audience? It's what they can get from you. And that's not a bad thing. It's just a human thing. And so it's no judgment there. People aren't interested in you. They're interested in what you can do for them. And that's a big piece of marketing with your event. So when Sam was, we're working her into the mesh of this large event, which took place over 5 days, online, all digital. We positioned her in certain key positions so that one is the deeply intimate story of her stillbirth. One is actually saying that stuff. The second is that she appears to do the things that she's very good at: ecstatic dance, yoga dance, and also getting her to run a yoga class just the way she would. And the third piece is the offer that she wanted to get to go out of the event, which is the upsell, was all about, in her case, it was about entering one of her courses. And one of them is the stillbirth course, which isn't called that at all. Because if you sell something with a negative, so you're saying, well, we changed it to the unexpected birth, right? Which is a very different angle of saying those who have had stillbirths, because you're focusing on the trauma. And what you want to do is focus on the uplift out of the trauma while acknowledging the trauma. So the unexpected birth is a very interesting way of putting it. And you can see how I would be interested in that topic without even knowing what it is. It's got a great title. And then all the other speakers that she had around her, and this is what you start to consider now in the second circle that you're drawing around, is who would be the other kind of speakers who you'd invite to speak to your event. So it could be, let's talk to Sandra for a minute, because you've got a very clear topic. If we were to, so unmute so I can talk to you. So if it was we're working on these black holes, when you lose belief in life itself, right? These moments where you go down that pit. What do you think the benefit of the going down the black hole is on the other side of it? Has it made you, for instance, a much more compassionate person?
It just gives, it's a kind of awakening thing. So if you decided to jump into that and go into your self-knowledge, it's something that take you to another level. But there's a lot of people that decided to numb the feeling, and then sometimes go to take drugs, psychiatric drugs, or just do things in order to do not get in contact with that feeling. And that is something that is inside of you to show you something, to take you to another level, to make you connected what is real in your life. So but for you to go there, you have to break yourself into millions of pieces, and then that's where you reach the bottom of that place, and then you have to start a journey to put all the pieces together. And this is very, I know when we are on that situation, it's terrible, but it's the most beautiful moment of your life, of my life. I mean, I'm talking about my things. So because I was able to build another person completely different from that one, that one, it doesn't exist anymore in the way that I was, but I'm so much better now. So
if you think about the speakers, and Ulrich's put something really amazing here, Black Hole as an event title, instead of that, it would be something along of the lines of exiting the black hole, leaving the hole you're in. And that's exactly right. As an event title, you mention the trauma, the black hole, but you're always taking your audience to some solution-based thinking. So imagine if it was exiting the black hole, which is a great title, then you would want to have a realm of speakers who are speaking into all the things that help with the awakening. And in fact, the subtext of the black hole is the most beautiful awakening, right?
yeah.
And so who are those people? Let's just go through them. Who would you want to speak into that space?
I would call people that see crises in life as opportunities as well.
Great.
So people who has experience in the middle of a crisis, just get the opportunity and go to another level. It doesn't matter if it's like to build your new business or whatever someone did, because there's a lot of people that take the opportunity of the crisis. And also because the only way that you get out of your comfort zone and get out of doing nothing is when you have a crisis, because the crisis will make you go forward. You need to get out of that. So I will call people who has experience on dealing with, I mean, people who already said, because everybody has to deal with crisis, but not everybody has the courage to talk about this kind of situations. So I would call people who has this experience. And
so let's break that down. It could be like business people who have, that's been the moment where they've shot into their success because they're driven by wanting to move out of crisis. It could be therapists. It could be medicine people, like medicine women, medicine men. It could be shamans. It could be healers. It could be psychoanalysts. It could, can you see the realm that this has of expert speakers? And just to say, speak into that space myself, the worst breakup I ever had was when I was 41 with somebody who I thought I was going to be a mother of his children. And I'd been a stepmom to his child for 3 years. And this breakup happened where my entire the illusion of that whole thing of happy families and I'm going to be the mom and all of that stuff, I was so invested in it. So there was a breakup. I had 7 either bad teeth that needed to be crowned or filled, or were emergency dental work happened at the same time. And I chose in my own mind that I was leaving photography as a professional moment. And it was total crisis. And when I look back at it, it was amazing because it was the key to me stepping into this world of the entrepreneur. It's been the most creative period of my life, hands down. And my thought behind it was, it can't get any worse. So fuck it. I'm going to just do these crazy ass risk-taking things in my own right, because who cares? Like, it can't get any worse. And so can you imagine if if I was one of your speakers then, and I show that right after that, I developed a property company that went up to 7 million in London. I'd never done property before. I'd never been trained in it. But the motivation was this thing of, who cares what anybody thinks? Like, if they judge me as a new entrepreneur, I just went for it. I absolutely went for it. And that moment, I still have the teachings of it. That was my black hole, one of them.
Yeah,
that was the worst one.
I think also this is something that can come more than once in your life. I mean, for me, I never went back there to that terrible place, like the bottom of the black hole. But big crises keep happening, even whenever you reach other levels of your life. For example, I was just living like my dream job and everything. And on the past 2 years, it was so nice and it was so amazing. And now it just started to be the nightmare job instead of the dream job. It's becoming the nightmare job. So I am in the middle of this crisis, and and I know, and my people, my friends here, especially the ones that are into the spiritual path, they say, oh my God, you're in that moment. You're in that magic moment of the crisis. But I cannot see it from where I am now. I'm just like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Look at what they're doing with me. And I'm feeling like a victim and everything. But I know I'm trying to get to go to another place and see from above, like zoom out the situation. But I am in the middle of a crisis right now.
Perfect. Because the best movies, I've often said, like, imagine a movie where, and it's a romance, first scene, man meets woman, or maybe two women meet, or two men meet, and they fall in love, and it's great. The end. It's like boring. This is that kind of moment where you realize that the greatest stories ever told are always like, oh, she didn't get him and it didn't work out. There was a bad moment, and then it sort of develops, and then they think they're going off with somebody else, but actually that doesn't work out, and they come back, and they, that's a good story, right? When that love works out through all the crisis, that's a great love story. And it's never just, oh, boy meets girl, oh, great, and it worked out the end. So when you see these crises as being, this is one of the most amazing event titles now. Can you see the momentum that's building around your event title? That if you gave this credibility, and I'm saying this to you for sure, like literally, Sandra, you've got a meltdown going on in your own life as it happens. Your focus is about black holes, which is crises. So you're deeply connected and you understand the magic of them. And then what if you then take that onto the world stage and you show all these success stories that come out of deep crisis, and you speak into it and you run an event like that? It's so authentic and passionate, and so many people relate to it. You could then perhaps start to evolve, because you always want to think, what's the upsell of an event? An event is an event is an event. It will be what it is. And there are methods that I recommend for the way that the platforms work. Ulrich and I are working together on, we work on events. And so some of the stuff that we're doing is Hey Summit. Some of the stuff we're doing is we're putting it onto this channel called Awoken TV. And if your topics are the right fit, I could take you on to Awoken TV, right? Because they're in the world of this unconventional topics. And if it's the right fit, it can work, especially if it's got a spiritual element. But the key thing here, you're starting to look at the emergence of an event here. The planning itself, there's a whole mechanism of planning, like event project planning. And that's something that that's what I do. I'm so used to it. But that's not really what I want to teach you. I want to teach you this beginning, the core piece, because nobody will really teach you this bit. They will teach you like, phone up the people who want to speak, you know, get the agreements in place, ask them to promote for you. That's the creation of the event. But the piece that's below that is what makes a really compelling event. And if it was something, you know, right now that I'm recommending to people is, rather than coming up with a quick flashy topic that you change all the time, instead own like you're a guardian of this topic that you're working on, and then run it as if you're going to start running a festival. So you start it now, even if you feel really unprepared, and then you start building it out, and you run an event a year or every 6 months. You build your audience list, you build your credibility with the experts over and over again, and you get your experts to be part of the marketing tool, right? So you want your experts to be as best known as they can be, to have an email list, to have social media interaction. Then you can always support the ones that just fascinate you, right? It doesn't mean that they all have to be rich and famous, but some of them have to be more known than others. And you can support the lesser known people by making sure that there are some known who can help you with the marketing. So second layer of that bubble that you're drawing, bit in the center is all about you. What's the thing that you try and hide? What's your authenticity? What's the topic? Second, who are those people who could all sit round, like round the table, and speak into that topic, who would show a success story with it, right? That's the second layer. Third layer is the piece that I really want you to connect with, is that timing is everything to do with events. And so when I work with people, I'm not on this sort of, what would you say? Like my mum used to say, sausage machine. It's a very northern thing, like the sausage machine of events, right? I don't eat sausages, so it doesn't really turn me on to say sausage machine, but you can imagine this mechanical, like, hey, somebody comes, they want to do an event. So I say, great, let's do it as fast as possible. I don't believe that. I actually am somebody who works with cycles and seasons, and I'm much more in tune with like the right season for you. So I want you to think, what in your topic that you're considering right now would be a season that would fit in with that? And just go straight into the heart of the matter and think, okay, you know, is it spring? Are you looking at the uplift of, is it a new dawning? Is it an awakening? Is that a good fit for you? Is it late spring, where it's all matured and it's the love festival and the period of the season where everything is burgeoning and good life force is coming through? Is it high summer, because it's got a kind of party element to it where people are celebrating and being out all the time? Is it more of a harvest season, like you've worked towards things and you've gained momentum and then you've got the harvest in? Is it a harvest season? Is it dipping into the underworld as we lose the light? Because this is right now. What is the season of it? Is it winter? And then you start to play on the two angles of it. So again, ideally, when people get on a roll with this and own their topic and become known on digital platforms, they would probably, if there was a topic like Sandra's, you'd want to work in spring, which is the uplift, awakening out of the dark hole, and all of that content would be relevant. And then you'd also want to work in the darker time. So it could be spring, autumn, or you two, you know, that's the axis that you're working on. I've been doing work with Awoken TV, and I'm doing 4 events for them. 2 are the solstices and 2 are the equinoxes. So we're using the solar wheel of the year, and I will be highlighting Awoken TV like a pulse of every quarter. There will be something that will highlight them. So you've got to think, what is the real connection point for your audience to naturally, that helps with, it's like swimming with the current versus swimming against the current. So you can imagine if right in midwinter, I do a whole summer season of things like bikini wear festival, it would be an absurdity. Sure, it would be fine, but it doesn't fit when people want to get into bikinis, right? So work with the seasons and the natural flow of something to plan your event. So the next ring out is when might be the times. Think about the times. Think about the experts that you want to speak, and how you want to position yourself is you want to be the expert. So you want other people to support you. They're in a support role. Sometimes the best way to describe that as running an event is you are the main topic and they are the entertainment. And it doesn't mean they are just nothing but entertainment. And you can include entertainment in your events too. Like breathwork could be entertainment, yoga could be entertainment, music could be entertainment, ecstatic dance could be literally entertainment. Ulrich's video behind him dancing around could be entertainment, ceremony. But how we position you as an expert, if you're a complete unknown, is if it was a 3-day event, we'd want one piece which interviews you and tells your story. So it's not coming just from you speaking at an audience. There's an interaction, somebody interviewing you, getting that out. That's quite fascinating. Second piece would be you credibility, which is all about what you're an expert in, delivering your topic. Third piece that you might want to do is, what is this taster of something that you're going to teach as an upsell? So it would be a course, it could be a subscription community. And then it's like, and where are you going to host it after the event? Because Ulrich's just been talking about using Thinkific for getting your educational learning course up online. Then use the marketing funnel, sales funnel, so that your courses don't just live on Thinkific. So what we do with these events, the way they work is, one is a live, literal, physical, in outer space, in virtual space event. I don't mean physical as in, you know, it's in a tent. The second layer of that is you want to contain all of that content that you have. And the next level of it would be you want to contain it somewhere. And Ulrich's talking about Thinkific because that's where courses are run. And it's where people go to find these things afterwards. So that's like repurposing your content. Because if you just do it as a one-off event, it's on, then off, you've not really utilized the extra piece that you can start to do, which is creating it like it's an evergreen event that people could access forever. And they could pay a small fee to access it, not in the live circumstances. To add into that piece, when I run events, most people who come to want to do events with me, they think, I'm going to do this event so that everybody can see everything on the event. And I'm like, no, the first piece you need to get about it is we want to make sure they can't see the whole event. That's like an outcome that you want. So how do we do that? We make sure that there's too much over too many time zones so that nobody can see all of your event. That's a goal. And it's a real different mind shift, because most people who step into the, you know, this new earth era, they think, oh, the goal is for everybody to see every piece of my event. It's like, no, the goal is for them to not, and to keep them hungry and to keep them for the first upsell, which would be to sell your event from a free event to owning the content for at least, say, a year, or you could have an all pass access or something that we add into it. But it's not this thing where, in the old school way, when I ran a yoga festival, I thought in my fantasy, my naive fancy was, I can go to all these classes, like tons of them. Whee! You know, because it's going to be so exciting. The reality was, at my own festival, I managed to get to maybe 2 events a day, if that. And it was like, oh my God, I realized like there's no way you can physically do it. Now, when we're on digital, start to see it. That's the objective. You want to make sure they can't go to every event. And what does that introduce? It introduces choice, so that people aren't being lectured to in this format, like I'm teaching you something for 10 hours. The audience doesn't have the capacity, nor do the host, to sit and absorb 10 hours of teaching. It's a bad choice as an event organizer. What you want to do is make sure that all the different topics that are available are fascinating and wonderful, but that nobody in their right mind could get through that schedule in a sitting, so that they will go to the upsell. And that's part of the marketing pieces that we bring into it. And so we are 3 minutes off the hour. What I'd like to, this is a big stage in the planning and the organizing. It's not the execution. This is the first stage, and I will run the next one more around the execution of an event, and send you all info about this. But right now, let's just have your immediate feedback. Where has this sent you in terms of the way that you think, and what kind of topics that you would be ready to produce as an event? Let's see where you're at in that. Let's have everybody speak into that. So Juliet, I know we can't see you, but.
Sorry, the topics for my event, hold on. Sorry, I was just, when you initially started to ask what was unique, I was thinking of my particular combination of dance, drama, and then the interest in yoga, diet, and exercise. And what I get excited by is the mind-body connection. But as you've been talking, I'm beginning to think more. I'm just people being in touch with their bodies, being able to just listen to their bodies in really fundamental ways, to know, if you're doing sport, if something's wrong, if you're eating something that doesn't entirely agree with you, or it makes you feel sleepy if you eat that particular thing, because I find people really are not aware of the things that their bodies are telling them. But I'm a high school teacher, and I was thinking another thing that I find about myself is I enjoy connecting with teenagers. So I've been thinking, as you've been talking, along the lines of some kind of a festival for teenagers, focusing around, I had no, I felt really insignificant, what's the word? Inadequate, in the sense that I didn't have any really significant trauma that I could, actually, I was like, it's the usual stuff. I had eating disorders when I was coming out of my teens, and feelings of poor self-worth, blah, blah, blah. But then I thought, well, that is just because it's not a huge trauma. The fact that it's a common trauma might be, well, if I'm thinking about working with teenagers, that might be my focus. So I was furiously writing when you spoke to me. So that's why I wasn't didn't entirely have my thoughts connected, because I've been sort of massively brainstorming.
That's where we want to get to.
Pre-exam time in the spring, sort of after Christmas, before everybody's stressed before their exams. Sorry, and what else were you asking about, Sally?
Sorry. Just generally asking, what has this prompted in you, in your thinking, what's come out of it? And you say it's kind of normal, the eating disorders. I don't think it's normal at all. I think it's that's the way that we brush away something that's been deeply connecting in that way that I'm saying. That's very authentic. You have a very strong perspective, and that's linking you to the teenager's self-worth. What an amazing topic.
Yeah.
What an amazing topic.
I just wish I had your skill for coming up with little slogans and things like that. I find sometimes I write, and the worst part of my writing is always my titles. They're always terribly boring, you know, or very, very mundane. So that's what I've been struggling with, is to think of those, you know, you've got this idea with the black holes that's very compelling. Yeah, I'm, you know, I'm still trying to lift my idea out of into something that really sparks excitement in people and makes teenagers want to take a weekend away from whatever they normally do on the weekend. You know, that's what I'm thinking is my hurdle, by giving it a cool title, giving it, you know, there's being some hooks that will really speak to them. Yeah.
Well, it's not over. This is just the beginning of you know, stirring the brew. And you start to realize, well, how would you compel a teenager? I mean, I could even go into, if it was eating disorders, it would be something like spit it out, you know,
Right. Yeah.
something like that, because it's all about, like, when you get too serious, like bulimia and eating disorders, I mean, nobody's interested. But if you're, what is spit it out? It actually also is, you know, when rappers talk about spitting, it's poetry. It's like, it's in their language. So it would be, I would be going along those lines. And but this is great, because you can see you've gone from this logical thing where we all start, which is, what's the logical thing I should do? Oh, I should do an event on branding and marketing. And then actually, you know, when you really dig deep, there's all these juicy topics that you can bring in experts who speak into that, but you are sticking to this very authentic, something that you want to bring into the world. And so, well done. Really
Thank
well
you.
done. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been really inspirational. I'm going to have to listen again, because I know I've been so busy writing that I've missed a lot of what you said. So I'm really glad you're recording it.
So does anybody else want to talk about where they've got with just some thought process today? Do you feel inspired? Any of you? Oh, I got a thumbs up. I
have to go. I'm sorry, I have to go.
Yeah, no, I understand. That's fine. And what I will say is, I will run another one of these to take you from the next piece on. But for anybody who wants to actually go through and try and get somewhere with it, please contact me and I will give you a time zone and we can go through that. So I'll give you my email right now. Oh, that's private. And some of you will have them, but if you don't, and you want to go a little bit further into this, ARRE.guru, send me an email. We'll set up a time and we'll go a little bit further into it and see how you could produce this event and really look at, you know, what's the right platform and that. So it's been a total pleasure being here with you. I hope it's, you know, helped all of you, even the people who aren't here right now and see it later. I will expect that when you get this email follow-up, I will also in the future, in a couple of weeks, I'll send you another for the next level on. And just wishing you so much inspiration. Stay completely authentic to who you are and don't go for the obvious. That's what's so interesting. That's my final word on it. Sending you so much love.
Thank you, Sally.
Pleasure. And this is also, I'll just add, big business. There's 23 billion being made on the online world. So it's real. So step into it and I can help you. Mwah. Sending you so much love. Bye.
Bye. Hey, Sally. Sally, I'll stay on with you for a minute, yeah?
Okay, sure. And the Amazon. Hey.
Great, everyone's gone.
Now, hang on, I'm going to stop the recording. Just 1 minute.